BRICS is a name that seems to appear a lot lately. It's mentioned a lot when the global economy is discussed, but what is it? BRICS is the acronym for an economic alliance. Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. Initially, it was just the BRIC group, without South Africa. Founded in 2001, BRICS countries form about 40% of the world's population and almost 33.3% of the world's GDP. The goal of the alliance is to create stronger ties between member nations for the sake of economic expansion. In addition, the member countries act as a corrective force to traditional Western influence. In fact, many people believe that BRICS could bring the downfall of the dollar. But why do they wish to counter the Western influence? And what does this mean for the dollar? Let's start from the beginning. Goldman Sachs economist Jim O'Neill created the term BRIC in 2001. He predicted that the four BRIC economies would come to dominate the global economy based on predicted patterns of growth. In September 2010, South Africa joined the BRIC group, which was then called BRICS. By 2012, BRICS had met and exceeded Goldman Sachs' expectations of launching a BRICS investment fund. The BRICS countries even raised a whopping $75 billion to boost the lending power of the International Market Fund. BRICS seeks to promote peace, cooperation, security, and development. The coalition aims to develop humanity and establish an equitable and fair world. The main benefit of BRICS is the fact that it seeks to strengthen economic ties. For instance, in South Africa, BRICS membership helps the country develop in different areas such as tourism, trade, investment, skills, and technological capabilities. The BRICS alliance is built on the principles of mutual respect, sovereign equality, strengthened collaboration, and consensus. In other words, BRICS does not have a common currency at the moment. However, the coalition has this as its medium to long-term ambition. But what happens if more countries join? South African President Cyril Ramaphosa announced during the August 24, 2023 meeting that the BRICS group had invited 6 countries to join the bloc. The 3 newcomers, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates, and Iran, are among the top 10 oil-producing countries in the world. Additionally, Argentina, Ethiopia, and Egypt have also been invited into the group to maximize the geopolitical influence of countries in the global south. How does this make BRICS more powerful? The expanded BRICS coalition will include 11 countries. Some of them are already working together. For example, Saudi Arabia has commissioned a nuclear power plant to be built by the Chinese. As for Iran, they've awarded a $2.7 billion airport expansion project to China. Here is where it gets interesting. Iran will pay for the entire project in crude oil, completely bypassing the use of the US dollar for the transaction. Essentially, this is what the BRICS is all about. Countries making deals with their local currencies or their valuable commodities without needing to rely on America. But BRICS faces various challenges too. The countries in the coalition have had very different growth paths. And during this time of major geopolitical conflict, the significance of the alliance is tested. BRICS' role in geopolitical conflicts is constantly evolving. Take the Middle East crisis, for example. Russia, India, and China support the Palestinian state while Brazil remains neutral. When there are differences of opinion like that, the allies need to resolve them or risk the alliance falling apart. And of course, there's also America's role to consider. As a superpower and major rival of BRICS, America is capable of severely limiting BRICS' influence in the Middle East. Some of the BRICS nations may want to appease America, while others do not. This is another point of conflict between allies. Basically, the US is both a referee and a player in the Israel-Palestinian conflict, and BRICS is another player on the sidelines. The US has already opposed a Russian-led UN resolution. This raises questions about its long-term strategy, which is something to consider. What's for sure is that adding new countries like Saudi Arabia or the UAE to the alliance could create even more complexities and compromise the stability of BRICS. Another factor that may help or hinder BRICS is shifting economic power. Over the last 20 years, global economic power has restructured significantly due to the rise of countries such as China. This makes the coalition more powerful and capable of challenging the USD's dominance. For instance, let's look at the recent BRICS summit that happened in South Africa. China's President Xi Jinping made a rare physical appearance. Keep in mind that this summit occurred at a time when China's economy was seen to be on the brink of collapsing. But instead of revealing a new currency, BRICS invited new nations. But that still has the potential to shake up the economy. If the invited nations join BRICS officially, the impact on the world economy will be massive, especially since the coalition could account for 50% of the world population. Now, what role does crypto play in the BRICS narrative? It's been a hot topic these few years after all. If BRICS ever decides to create a unified currency to compete with the weakening USD, Bitcoin could prove suitable for their needs. Another issue BRICS may face is their member nations having different visions of what the alliance should be like. Since the coalition is a consensus-based group, the economist Henry Tugendhat from the USA Institute of Peace questions whether the group will agree to a singular vision. According to Tugendhat, there are underlying security concerns, since most countries that BRICS include have difficult or even hostile relations with the US. Some, like Russia and China, are also highly autocratic. This makes BRICS an interesting combination of countries. By forming this alliance, these countries have formed an organization without a secretariat or clear consensus. What's even worse is that they lack legal authority over their decisions. The diversity of the various nations in BRICS also plays a role in shaping their visions. Although the countries share common goals, their strategic priorities, political systems, and economic structures differ significantly. Therefore, these countries lack a united front on critical issues such as the creation of a global currency. Another obstacle facing BRICS nations is the internal economic challenges among them. For instance, Brazil and Russia have had their share of economic downturns. South Africa, on the other hand, struggles with structural issues, which divert resources away from collective initiatives. For instance, corrupt government officials mishandling funds hinder the country's capacity to pursue economic development goals, including tackling unemployment. Overall, internal economic instabilities have limited the BRICS alliance from showing a united economic front, which reduces its credibility as a potential global currency. And of course, there's also China, the elephant in the room. For instance, Jair Bolsonaro, Brazil's former president, 2019-2022, has criticized China for 4 years straight. Just like other leaders, one of the Brazilian ex-president's reasons for the criticism was the COVID-19 pandemic that brought the world to a standstill. In addition, other factors such as economic competition, environmental policies, and politics made him criticize China even further. China and Brazil, being major economic partners, are prone to disputes over trade imbalances. Bolsonaro's critique remarks may have also been fueled by political ideology. His conservative and nationalist political ideology may have triggered ideological concerns about the communist government's influence. Bolsonaro may have also been influenced by broader geopolitical considerations. Similarly, the 2020 border conflict with India has made China and India's relations frosty. As a result, the world order that the BRICS have been trying to implement has yet to overcome many challenges. And speaking of China, their attempts to counter America's influence on the economy haven't worked out well either. The new development bank, which is essentially China's global South answer to the World Bank, has yet to define itself against other alternatives to the World Bank that already exist. The new development bank is based in Shanghai and has some startup capital, but it is nowhere as significant as most global South development banks. Additionally, other issues such as the lack of a centralized institution to authorize collective decisions legally pose decision-making challenges within the organization. On the other hand, having a large population could play in BRICS' favor. With new BRICS members, the coalition could represent about half of the world's population and at least a third of its GDP in terms of purchasing power. That is very significant, especially when you look back to where they came from in 2000. In 2000, the G7 made up around 50% of the purchasing power parity. For context, the G7 is a group of 7 of the world's advanced economies, including France, Canada, Italy, Japan, the United Kingdom, the United States, and the European Union. At the time, when the BRICS were the original 5 countries, they formed a little less than 10% of the purchasing power parity. If the new member nations join them, that number shoots up drastically. The Chinese government has also popularly termed the dollar as the main source of instability and uncertainty in the world economy. In fact, Beijing blamed the Fed's interest rate hike for disrupting the international financial market and the significant depreciation of other currencies. China, together with other BRICS countries, has criticized the use of sanctions as a geopolitical weapon. Overall, the main objective of de-dollarization would be to mitigate such problems. Analysts and experts are quite divided on the future of the dollar. For instance, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen believes that the dollar will continue to dominate as most countries have no alternative. However, one former White House economist anticipates that there is a possibility for the BRICS currency to end dollar dominance. But it'll require some significant steps, of course. For a new currency to work, BRICS would need to agree to an exchange rate approach, well-regulated payment systems, and stable and liquid financial markets. To achieve global currency status, BRICS would need a strong reputation of joint currency management to convince others that the new currency is reliable. A BRICS version of the euro is highly unlikely, as none of the countries seem interested in discontinuing their local currency. Instead, the objective seems to be to create an effective integrated payment system for cross-border transactions before introducing a new currency. The building blocks to execute this plan already exist. In fact, BRICS nations have been developing BRICS Pay, which is a payment system among BRICS nations that allows them to transact without having to convert their currency into dollars. Additionally, there have been talks regarding BRICS cryptocurrency and strategically aligning central bank digital currencies to promote different currencies to operate. Since many nations are interested in joining BRICS, the group is likely to scale its de-dollarization agenda. Unfortunately, some of BRICS's ambitious past initiatives have failed. For instance, the idea of developing a BRICS credit rating agency and a BRICS undersea cable did not materialize. De-dollarization efforts have also been struggling, both on a bilateral and multilateral level. In 2014, when BRICS countries launched the new development bank, its agreement stated that its operation may provide funding in a country's local currency in which the operation takes place. For instance, Russia and India have sought to create a mechanism for trading in local countries. This would encourage Indian importers to pay for Russia's cheap oil and coal in rupees, despite the barriers to de-dollarization. BRICS has an unshakable determination. So it is clear that the BRICS coalition is trying to rewrite the rules of global finance. The BRICS currency is not just talk, but is a bold move to shake off the influence of Western powers. We are about to witness a strong shift in international dynamics as more countries seek to join the alliance. So, what does the future look like? Does the BRICS story lead to a new era, leaving traditional power structures scrambling? Or will they fail to make an impact? Only time will tell.